For the hip hop case, I'm going to give the recommendation that Hipkins will increase their interval arrival time by 120 in order to lower the average flow time for the customers, which is a very important KPI. I should think it should do a combination of pooling track A and then assign two ORs to track B. And I believe they should pool the CRNAs and the efficient assistants to help increase the amount of surgeries. Now I've figured out all these items through doing an analysis. And so I did all this analyses by doing simulations. Now, my main goal here was to go through based off the case study and the videos from the professor to find the best options for this hospital and what's going to help their flow rates and their surgery overall. So here is the Excel. This is an Excel sheet I came up with. The 4 best options, I believe, or what I thought would lead to better options. So we will be discussing the base case, the increase in interval to 120, the assigning the BMI, and then the optimization as well. As you can see, these are all done with 120 as well. So the first question that was asked was, does utilization matter? Now, I believe utilization matters absolutely, and based on the simulation, let's go through the base case. The base case runs simulation where we're gonna just get to the end of the day here, where in the end, you end up having 4 surgeries for track A, 4 surgeries for track B, and then you have an average flow of line 205 and 189. So that's kind of our starting point, and those are kind of reflected in the numbers here. We have 205, 197, and for the most part, the numbers stay closer to 4 surgeries a day. There's an anomaly occasionally of this one's more averaging middle of 5, but 4, but for the most part, it is 4 surgeries. Now to note that all of these simulations I have were ran 6 times each in order to have proper data. So we're going to stop this, and I've run this a couple of times, and we are going to now look at adding a CRN to the pool. Now we will start the case, and we will run this at the end of there. Now here you can say that by adding the CRNA to the pool, the flow times ended up going down and the surgeries ended up increasing. Now this is notable that I that again, end of the day, we have 194, 6169, 5 and 5. And again, like it's helping out the ORs or helping people in having an average of more surgeries. Now, I wanted to table this analysis for later for the optimization because I knew it would be needed later, but I did not want to include it yet to make sure that I talk about price, which is one of our triple bottom lines. So line that. And now going back to our tables, I was like, okay, what happens if we increase to 120? Now here we go. We're currently at 90. I'm going to increase the inter-arrival times for both tracks to 120. We will then run this simulation. And then we will head to the end of the day. You see here how the surgeons and the anesthesiologists, a lot of their utilization is being brought down and they're not being overworked as much. Now, this helped bring down the flow times a great deal, which was a very important KPI to focus on here. So I thought this was a very important key item. And every time I ran the simulation, as you can see, we ended up drastically changing the average flow times from like around 205, 197 to 159, 145. So I decided that, well, you see, this is going to help our flow times, make our customers happier. So I'm like, we're going to keep running these simulations and stack everything, anything changes on top of this 120. So we'll go back to our simulation. And so our next one we were going to focus on was I decided to look into the uh, BMI. This one applies more to variance than it will um, the other four lenses looking at, those being, as I said, as I should have mentioned, utilization, pooling, variation, and psychology. Now, I'm the pooling, when you do pooling, it didn't seem to do much based off a previous simulation, so I did not want to go down that path any further. So no pooling was used to just add one at a time. I will later talk about that in optimization though, where it did end up being helpful when adding other elements. So here, we'll go to the BMI to see about variance, because I thought this was a very interesting point. Now you can see here that when we run the simulation, let's go here. I ended up using the standard deviations and everything from the professor's track videos. I would put these numbers in, but it's kind of a moot point because I need to go back and change those in the sake of time. So what happened was I put these numbers in. It actually took down the amount of surgeries in one track, but kept the others the same. So the variance, while it did change, it really did increase the other ones. So changing the variance does work, but in this case it just does very little, and the flow times were increasing greatly for one. And also, it was a very good point that I did not want to do any assigning or changing based on BMI, as I think it would conflict greatly with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Like, we are going to be treating patients based on their BMI, which is can be seen as a possibly outdated and so it's a very interesting set point because BMI is based off your height and your weight. So someone with a higher BMI who would be in certain categories maybe is not, and it could affect any possible diversity, equity, inclusion in that we might be treating our patients differently based on size, which in science and everything it might seem okay, but there's a very tricky track there that I think is not that important and it should be considered. So next I decided let's do the optimization. So the optimization was ran, and I will pull it up again here. So our optimization was ran at 120, and here we go. Let me run this. Now this ended up spitting out these numbers, which I then pulled into a document here, as you can see. So I ended up taking these numbers and I ended up putting them into the main simulation. Again, for sake of time, I'm not going to change the numbers because it takes a little too long. But from there, we could see that in this case, surgeries went way up. It helped it helped the amount of like stress on the surgeons and anesthesiologists just a lot. Now, based off all this data and everything, it ended up also lowering flow time rates even more. So I said, okay, we need to make sure that this is where the pooling of track A and then assigning two to track B comes in, and then also including CRNAs and efficient assistance. These help also what I consider to be the bottlenecks of this whole organization, which seems to be the anesthesiologists and the ORs. So by allowing more time for the anesthesiologist to have that assistance to go back to another OR, they're able to free up more time and they can do more surgeries and the flow time and everything works better. And this allows the ORs also to not be as backed up, and then more people can come in for their surgeries. So I find that using the optimization and then increasing those 120 inter-arrivals allows the patients to have a better experience, the surgeons and doctors, and it's just have a better day at work. And in the end, I think this really helps the triple bottom line item of people, where we're going to be able to hire some more people, which their optimization found that it would be the optimal solution for the price. So the cost would be worth it all in the end for like increasing the surgeries for the profit, but the people themselves would be much happier and the hospital would look better. So I think there's also the psychology aspect where now that they might have a little bit more in-arrival time, but now they're getting not as pushed to later days, more surgeries can happen, and their average flow time is much shorter. And so their families and the people in surgery themselves feel better. So in conclusion, I believe that we need to increase these arrival time by 120 for the average flow rates, and then doing the combination of pooling a track and then assigning 2 ORs to track B, pooling the CRNA nurses, and also applying a physician's assistant to help increase the amount of surgeries. This will, in the end, help the people, help raise our profits, and make the hospital overall as a whole look better.